Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Latinas in Podcasting. I'm Paulette Arado. I'm the founder of Latinas in Podcasting. Welcome to Crafting Your Story. I'm going to go through just a quick overview of what Latinas in Podcasting is. As you can see on the screen, welcome. I'm Paulette. My husband, Ryan, is our tech support. So if you ever need tech support, email support@latinasinpodcasting.com. Otherwise, you can also, if you're in Slack, DM him. He is the intern. That's a name he chose. No judgment. But we are both available to help should you need any assistance. About Latinas in Podcasting, we started as a happy hour. In 2024, the night before Podcast Movement Evolutions was happening here in Los Angeles, we were just tired of being the only Latinas in the room. And from that grew the idea to host an annual summit. It was a virtual summit in October of that year. And from that, a community was established. So in October of 2025, last year, we did it again. We had over 200 people attend that. In March, we got our trademark, which is right here. You can see it, which was a huge get. I worked with one of the speakers that we have had here at Latinas in Podcasting, Taylor, Legal Miga. So if anybody's familiar, she's great. She's great for trademarks. And we have monthly events like this, or like the Pitch Fiesta that we're going to have next month. Registration is open. I will put it in the chat so you could register now. It is a chance to give a 2-minute elevator speech. You're going to kind of learn how to do that today, about what it is you're looking for, whether you want to be a guest, whether you want to have guests, whether you just want downloads or ratings and reviews, or someone to hire you to speak at their event or produce their podcast, whatever it is you're looking for, 2 whole minutes to do that. And then we will have our annual summit once again in October. It's going to look a little different though, so details will be coming soon about that. Benefits of being in Latinas in Podcasting: we have free events all the time. Cafecito on the first Friday of the month, co-working on the first and third Wednesdays, workshops like this, the Pitch Fiesta I just mentioned, resources like the weekly newsletter, the LRSS blog, which anybody can pitch an article for, by the way. Nina's submitted one. You'll get replays of stuff like this. There's the Slack community. If you haven't joined yet, please do. And coming on Tuesday, the membership directory. And then finally, there are 2 levels of membership at this community. You can join for free, which I'm sure all of you did. Now that you're registered, you automatically became a member. But if you would like to help sustain Latinas in Podcasting, we also have a tier for that. It's pay as you go, or pay what you can. And that's called Patronas. The big perk of being a Patrona is you get to be featured in El Playlist. Notice a rhyming scheme here, or a naming scheme here. El Playlist comes out every Friday and kind of just takes all that social promo that everybody complains about off your plate, because we're promoting you to our entire 400-person membership. So if that sounds good to you, check out our membership page, latinasinpodcasting.com/join. Okay, that is literally all I have to say. If there are any questions, raise a hand, come off mic. Are we good? All right. So, Crafting the Story, featuring our speaker, Yvonne Armenta. She is a public speaking consultant. And what we hope you walk away with today is a short story that captures the exact moment that pushed you to finally hit record on your podcast. A roadmap that's showing you how to turn this story into a longer live speech down the road that maybe people will pay you for. And if we have time and anybody's game, an opportunity to share that story and get live coaching from Yvonne while she's here. Sound good? I see the heads nodding. Fantastic. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Yvonne.
First of all, amazing. Thank you, Paulette, for everything that you do for the community and all the different offerings. I'm really excited to be here and see so many familiar faces. If at any point you can't really hear me, let me know. I'll try to keep track of the chat. I am out and about, so I'm currently outside, not in my home office, which also means my screen right now looks like this instead of my regular monitor that I have. So I'll try to make sure that I keep track of everything happening on the chat in the chat as well. Before we get started, I want to start with something that we rarely do before going on stage, or at least not officially, not consciously, not intentionally all of the time, though it is very helpful. And that is to take a few deep breaths. So a lot of what we'll do today is really interactive. I hope to hear your voice a lot more than I hear mine, to be honest. That being said, it can be pretty nerve-wracking. Keep in mind, we are recording a space, so feel free to share what you'd like, keep to yourself what you'd like, participate and engage in whatever capacity feels good to you. So I'd like to just start off with 2 deep breaths. You can do a third one if you'd like at your own pace. I'm not a practitioner in breathing, but I like to take a few deep breaths before I start anything. So all together or at your own pace, I'll give you some time. So I will start now. So take a deep breath in, inhale if you'd like. I hold it for like 3 seconds and then release with my entire body. So breathe in once more with your entire body and soul. Hold for like 3 seconds. And then just release. Feel free to do that one more time if you'd like. If you have some agua, a little bit of water next to you, your favorite drink, go ahead and take a sip of that before we get started as well. Usually it should be water so you don't get all antsy before going on stage. But also very helpful tool to have. Just have something to drink in case you need a pause, you need a break, just have some water. Okay, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So today, like Paulette mentioned, we are going to dive into the moment that you decided to hit record. You tell stories all the time, right? Whether you have a podcast or you don't, or you're thinking of starting one, there is a moment, an exact moment where you were like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to hit record. Whether that was I've been thinking about it for years and all of a sudden this one conversation that made me mad was I was like, okay, you know what? I'm about to hit record on this and you're going to hear me, you're going to hear my voice. Or it was just a more casual thing. You said to yourself, hey, I feel like I have something to say, a different perspective to share, and I want to share it out loud. Let me get my phone going. Let me get a mic. Do I need to buy the mic? So we're going to dive into what that story actually is. And the intention for today is not perfection, right? It's really to create perspective. So what we'll do together is not a final version of whatever speech or story you'll share, but more so the beginning of that final version. I don't want you to strive for perfection. I don't want you to worry about any structure, though I will give you a bit of a structure. I want you to really just create. And that is the intention for today. I'll skip this slide because Paulette already covered it. But what I would like to say is, as far as how you can share, if you'd like to share, please always feel free to go off mute. One of the things that I like to say that always feels a little awkward to admit that I do is that when someone is presenting and they say something funny or I don't know, I giggle, right? I will unmute myself, I'll giggle, and then I'll put myself back on mute just so that they know, just so the presenter knows, hey, I'm here, I heard you, that was kind of funny, and I'm here with you, right? So I'd love to hear you when possible, if the space allows. I will also, again, monitor the chat as well. So if your preference is to share there, please do that as well. I won't go into an introduction because, my bio is there, but one thing that I would love to share is that in the work that I do through public speaking, coaching, and communications consulting, one of my strategies for one of my most favorite things to do is this story development, right? Because we are all telling stories all of the time, and they are whatever imperfect actually looks like, right? Because what is a story? So I'd like for us to actually start with that. What is the purpose of telling stories? You can drop it in the chat. If there is a purpose, is there a purpose to telling stories? From your lens today, thinking about your podcast, what is the purpose of telling the stories that we do? Connection, sharing knowledge and traditions, connection, the why, to learn, to find people you can relate to. And when we think about those things, education, right? Again, sharing knowledge, sharing experience, to teach, help others, inspire, to challenge, 100% to challenge, right? Why is it important? At the end of the day, really, also the theme that I'm seeing is connection, right? To entertain, yes. think about the stories you tell with your friends, right? Right? Like el chisme. I like to call him el chisme. Is like, hey, you're just telling a story with no real purpose of, oh, let me sell this or let me tell this story for the purpose of this beyond, hey, I'm here in the present with you. And so I like to think of stories as something that asks us to go back into our past to reflect, to then bring us into the future and guide us in, or bring us into the present and guide us into the future. So, okay, to help illustrate ideas and thoughts. Yeah, because you can say, for example, something that I like to say, or I always recall is as a college alumni or as a student, college alumni for my class would come and they'd give us this advice, right? Like go to your professor's office hours, use all of the services that are available. That is great advice. But that went in one ear and out the other because it didn't meet me in my circumstance. It didn't meet me in my feeling, in my emotion of being a current student, right? They were approaching it from being alumni. And so what a story could do is place them back in my shoes in some ways, so that I do go and check out and have the courage to go to my professor's office hours, which I didn't do till the very end, by the way, my senior year. And then I was like, I should have gone. I was like, there it is. And then also you kind of have to accept that even when you share a story, it will not always resonate with people right then and there. It may take them some time, and you may have to tell it to them once more for it to resonate, right? I currently am really nerding out about the intersections of AI and how it is currently being built out and storytelling, right? So, one of the things that I have been very aware of is how many companies are actually looking for now storytellers, right? So they're not calling them marketers, they're not calling them, uh, you know, community engagement. They're calling them storytellers, right? Companies are desperately seeking storytellers, which doesn't necessarily solidify the importance of storytelling because it always has been incredibly important. But I think it gives us as speakers, as podcasters, a perspective and a further deepening of our why, right? To challenge, to entertain, and to connect with one another. And really, what I consider storytelling to be is all about preservation, knowledge sharing, innovation, creativity, all the things that y'all shared already, right? So, keeping that in mind, as the founder of Latina Presente, I got to, which is really cool being a business owner because you could do whatever you want, right? Um, my values are in the form of dichos, right? So these are some of the dichos that I grew up with. And I won't bore you by going through all of them. You can check them out on our website as well. But one of the ones that I would like to point us to, and that is the foundation of what we'll do today, is hay frijoles en la casa. Their literal translation is there are beans in the house, which typically meant, hey, you don't have to go spend money. You can eat what you have at home. And it is not to say don't splurge, don't engage in a little treat, right? It is actually the quite opposite of that. But the way that we use it at Latina Presente is really our foundation is in storytelling is ours, right? We have that already. We do that already. And all we really have to do, on top of a few other things, is look inside of ourselves to bring those stories to life and bring them to life a nuestra manera, recognizing that, yes, there are always structures that we can follow. There are uh, best practices that we can follow, but a real structure that is your own will always land more, will be more impactful for your audience. And they're saved in an empty jar of yogurt in the fridge. Yes. Okay. With that being said, through Latina Presente, what we do is create tools, spaces, resources for you to practice public speaking con cultura. One of those things is our public speaking practice cards, which you can see all 4 sections here. If you're familiar with them, amazing. If you're not, I present them to you. These are over 78 prompts to practice public speaking, and they are bucketed in 4 different ways. So we have El Chisme, which we will go into in just a second. These are all storytelling prompts. La emoción is all around voice inflection. So the rhythm of your voice, what it sounds like, all those practices help you hear your voice out loud. Movimiento has to do with the way that your body language, everything, our nonverbals, what our body is doing while we're on stage or presenting, delivering a talk. And then positive affirmations in both English and Spanish, because I think how you talk to yourself also really matters, especially right before going on stage. It's like a little Band-Aid, right? So I would like for us to we're about to go into the cards. So I have 4 prompts. You may not have these. If you have these at home, pull them out and we can use them that way. If you don't have them though, I'd like for you to drop in the chat a number 1 through 4. And while you do that, and I tally them up, I will see, I'd like for you to approach these prompts from thinking about your podcast, right? Today, we're talking about the moment in time, and we are going to develop some short stories down the road in just a second. But for right now, I always like to start with a little bit of a warm up and reflection. While these prompts are more general and they may make you think about something completely different, I'd like to challenge you to go to that moment and connect it back to your podcast, the why and how you started and the reason for your podcast existing today, right? Okay, I see 3 votes. If you'd like to vote, let me know. If not, I'm going to go with whatever the 3 it looks like number 4 right now. Are we cool with number 4? Okay, awesome. I have screen grabs of the cards here. So typically, you'd grab one of these and just start rating it. Okay, I'm going to read the prompts to you. This one says, con mucho cuidado. When was the last time you tried something new? How and why did you take that first step? And all the cards have a bit of a consejito to help you in writing out the story and saying it out loud. This one says, every story has a unique rhythm. Start by setting the scene. Where were you when you were called to try something new? What made you say yes? Then walk us through what you felt. Nervous, excited, unsure. Finally, land on what you took with you from that experience and speak from that place. So I will give you maybe like 2 minutes to think about it. This is meant to be just say it out loud, however it comes to you. But when was the last time you tried something new out? And what made you take that first step? This is kind of very relevant to that moment in time that we're going to tap into. And when I say something new, it could be like something you ate. It doesn't have to be deep, right? When you're ready, I'd love to hear some voices.
Okay, if everybody's going to be shy, I'll be brave. I recently, I like to operate from the philosophy that we get to be new at things, right? So it's less scary to try to be, you give yourself a little bit more grace when things aren't perfect, right? But I recently, you know how they say it's really hard to make friends when you're older? I just joined a group that is expressly for that, a group of women trying to make friends. And it's kind of a structured thing where we meet every week and we answer some questions and get to know one another. And then we have one-on-ones. And man, it's been awesome, but also like, oh my gosh, do I know how to make friends? Do I know how to be cool? All of that self-talk kind of bubbles to the surface.
And not because I want to analyze, right? But what I like to do when I hear people speak is almost like highlight certain things that you're saying is like I'm seeing it on the paper and I'm highlighting it. But something that Paulette just did naturally and organically as she's sharing is tapped into the questions that she had to ask herself, either in order to engage or a question that she had beforehand, right? That's an essential part of storytelling. It answers some kind of question oftentimes or taps into some kind of untapped emotion. The first one was hard to make friends, right? That's almost like I feel like that's like a universal thing, right? Like I feel like I have many virtual friends that I can connect with in spaces virtually too, but in person is a lot harder, right? Paulette, what made you, after all these years being an adult and it being hard to make friends as an adult, what made you actually decide to join this group?
I wanted to stop feeling lonely. Like, yes, lots of virtual friends. We do this all the time, but especially post-pandemic, it has been very hard. And I'm an extrovert. Unlike Yvonne, I know you're an introvert. I'm an extrovert. Like, not being able to connect with people or be in spaces where I feel comfortable connecting with people in real life is really hard. It's a hard way for me to exist. So I just decided that I'm just going to go out and see what happens. I also like to operate from the idea that because I'm an extrovert, strangers are just friends I haven't made yet, as long as they're not serial killers.
Oh my gosh. In my mind, I'm like, everybody's a serial killer. I can't talk to anybody. Just kidding. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And as you start to also, as you are listening yourself to anything that comes up in the space, start to think about what reactions it creates in you, or what questions you have for Paulette. Where would you like Paulette to talk on a little bit more so that you can dive deeper into that experience? Where do you connect with them? Right? That often helps us as speakers create our stories. It's like, I can tell you this perspective, but if you have a particular curiosity based on what I just said, just the first few words, you might help me shape the story in a way that resonates with even more people. Can I get maybe two more people to share? I know I see some things in the chat as well. Angela, I saw, okay, Angela and Marisa. And then just actually, everybody can share. Whoever wants to share can share. I love it. Go for it, Angela.
Hi, yeah, my name is Angela, and I think I'm gonna share about the last thing that I tried that was kind of different, a little bit different, was taking myself to a conference, for it's like neuroscience in creativity, and I was just like, kind of feeling like, okay, this is cool, but I was being pushed by another friend, and I ended up in the end like going through this process of like, do I really belong? I mean, I hadn't been to conference in a long time. This is right after I lost my job, so I'm in this moment of like questioning myself, like, do I even belong there? I don't know anything about neuroscience. I'm into the creative side, so it kind of made sense, but there was a part of me that was feeling like, doubting myself, like a little bit like an imposter, like I'm not a scientist, what am I gonna do there? And just going through these feelings of not fitting and having to, ask myself about what are the things that make me certified to belong to this space, and in a way asking for permission from someone to then kind of like allow myself to belong to that space and give myself permission to be there. So yeah, so it was interesting, it was fun, and once I was there, realizing like, sometimes you're looking for permission outside when you see other people doing something and they're not asking permission to belong or do it from anybody, and it's like, why am I doing that to myself? So yeah.
Angela, I didn't even realize that you were here. How are you? It's been so
Oh,
long
hi,
since we talked to.
good.
We actually worked together when I'm back in my tech days. So it's so nice
Yeah,
to
nice to
see
see
you.
you. No, I love seeing you doing this. I enjoy.
It's awesome. Um, Something that Ankala did just now is tap into feeling. What was I feeling, right? The feelings that came up of imposter syndrome, of doubt, and then an internal reflection of there are other people that are doing this and they don't need permission, which by the way, they probably are very much thinking the same thing, right? We're a collective of people being like, do I need permission, more permission to do this, right? But you started tapping into one of the prompts that will tap into when we go into the development of, hey, when was that specific moment for your podcast, which is the feelings. So every time that you're developing a story, there is a feeling that you feel. There's also a feeling that other people or a collective feels. Tap into those moments. It's one of my favorite parts of public speaking is the feeling part. As a cancer, I know I have some fellow cancers in here, Steph for sure. I feel a lot, and so often I feel like I can't let it all out. Storytelling allows me to do that in this real creative way. So tap into the feelings as hard as they are. And they don't ever need to actually, all of them need to make them on a stage or as a part of the story, but they shape the perspective and the tone through which you say it. Right? I'll have one more person share anything that came up for them. Marisa?
So I'm sharing what I'm trying that's new.
Yeah,
Okay.
something recently that you tried that was new.
Well, I am trying to launch a podcast, which is very new for me. I'm a writer by trade, and the reason I'm launching a podcast is because I am a social studies teacher and a writer, and I've done a little bit of research on the early Latinos in American history because I didn't get that kind of thing in my growing up education. I did a presentation on it for a group, and they couldn't stop talking about it. They just couldn't stop talking about it. So I originally thought I would write a book, and then I realized nobody's going to buy a book about that, but maybe they'll listen to a podcast. So hence I'm starting a podcast.
And maybe they'll listen to the podcast and be like, damn, I wish there was a book on this. Right. So one thing I learned in my career in comms is, and public speaking really is you meet people where they are. Right. So sometimes I think internally we'd be like, employees, team members would be like, we need a newsletter that goes out that tells us everything we need to know, and we need it to be weekly. We want it to be weekly. And then you're like, okay, sure, I'll have it go out weekly and all this information, whatever. And then, no, you're sending way too many emails. Okay, that's fine. I can pull it back. I'll do bi-weekly, right? But communications and storytelling always asks us to meet people where they are, right? That's one of the things that I've learned. So podcast and then the book, or book and then podcast, right? Okay, awesome. So let me share my screen one more time. Okay, so this is a long, too much text on here, right? But this is a sample short story structure. And the reason I always call out structure in that way is because I like to say, you have that structure in you. Like, there is all of us, this is almost like the permission that some of us need sometimes to start creating, and a little bit of a guardrail in some ways. But I like to say, take this structure, remix it, and make it your own. Now, there are many different story structures, right? In particular, this one's for a short story because you don't dive too much into the characters at all. Really, you give just enough information. But similar to most structures, this is the start of the story, the first thing. This is like your hook, right? Or the thing that people call the hook. I like to say this is about bringing me to a very specific moment in time immediately, because it's a short story. You don't have too much time to massage it, but bring people to that moment of you tying your shoes and looking up, right? Just bring me to that moment and making a bold statement right from the beginning. Then we provide context, but don't do too much here. It's almost like the punchline. You're starting the punchline, but you don't get too deep into it, because then you want to tell people about a significant moment where something important happens. And even if it may not be obvious right away to the audience that it's actually really important, then you take us into more explanation, give us another event that happened if you have time, and the climax, which that word is always kind of like, it feels like it doesn't encompass everything. It's like the lesson learned or the desired outcome. In this case, this is literally, I started my podcast, or I'm launching my podcast, or go listen to my podcast, right? And something to keep in mind for the next 30 minutes where we're actually going to write is that our short stories are meant to focus on deeper understanding of the characters involved, but really it's a perspective, right? So again, you're not going to have 5 different characters. The character in this moment is you. Use that moment in time. So you'll take me there. And I always like to say and emphasize perspective, because someone else can have a very similar type of moment, but they didn't have the same feelings or experience them in the same way. Like, what was your body doing as you were experiencing this? Was it hot? Were you sweating? Was it a nice day? Was it raining outside? Was it sunny outside? That is you, the development of you in that moment, right? And you don't need to know everything. So because this is also a story, I think sometimes we hold ourselves back from sharing things because we think, well, if I'm going to talk about this phone case and the color red on here, I have to know absolutely everything there is to know about the color red before I share this story, before I say something out loud. But really, if we go back to, hey, a story is about perspective. Well, let me just share my perspective on the color red and how I've experienced it and what the color red makes me feel. And then later, if I want, I can say, oh, okay, let me dive deeper into what the color red actually means. What is it? Why do I feel this way, right? And then having a question that moves you. So Paulette at the beginning had mentioned a few questions that kept coming up with around joining the group, right? So I like to think about this question as your central question. You don't even need to necessarily start with it, but maybe you have a question where you're like, I wonder what it would feel like if I started a podcast. That's the question. I wonder what it would be like if I started sharing knowledge about public speaking with a little bit of a twist to it, with some cultura, something that doesn't feel so disconnected from the art of public speaking. I wonder, right? If there is anything that pops up in the chat, please unmute yourself, because my screen looks crazy right now, so I kind of can't see it all. And then remembering that these short stories that we're going to develop are a vehicle for a single powerful message or theme. So the moment that you hit record and why. This is the beginnings of what will be eventually, hopefully, a larger speech, or you on a panel, or you on another podcast, right? It doesn't have to be you on stage delivering to like 1,000 people. And another thing to keep in mind is that they're short. right? They don't have to be long. You don't have to get too deep with it, but get deep enough. So that being said, there's always three sides to the story, right? Your side, their side, and the truth. I kind of took this and made it a little bit my own and said, well, for today, we're going to talk about what you felt. So that's your side, your why narrative, what they felt. I'm talking about a standard narrative or a collective feeling, maybe some feelings of self-doubt. What is the feeling that you can tap into that your community feels, right? That's where we start to talk about the why this podcast is needed right now. The first one is more on you. The second one is more on community and external feelings or common narrative. And then the third one is what actually happened. Like, tell me straight up what happened. You grabbed the mic, you recorded, and then you figured out you were on mute, right? This is the who, what, when, where of the moment that you hit record or someone heard your podcast for the first time. If you all have podcasts already, I'd like for you to focus on that part of it and that feeling of it. Any thoughts, questions before okay, let me check the chat. Embracing curiosity. Okay, the truth. Yes. Gosh, it's happened to me so many times. Unfortunately, because I am an introvert, I'm also very much energy driven. And so if that thing didn't, if I recorded and it was on mute, even if I'm all ready and makeup done, toda la cosa, unfortunately, it will have to get done tomorrow or something. Like I exerted all the energy that I had for that. Okay. So we are going to go into the moment that you hit record. We're going to develop these 3 short stories based on this right here. And what this will look like is I will give you a prompt and you'll spend 2 to 3 minutes free writing. I don't want you to, though I gave you a bit of a structure, we're not thinking about that right now. We're going to talk about that in just later on. But I would like for you to just free write. Marissa, this might be fun, or this might be like, oh, I do this all the time. Right? But just think about, I'd like you to just start writing or typing too, if that's better for you. I will give you a prompt. You'll start writing. And whatever you have on the piece of paper, I'd like for us to try sharing out loud as it is. Because remember, today is not about perfection, but it's about a perspective. And then what we'll do after everybody shares is ask curiosity questions or think about something that what they said made you feel, something that resonated with you. Feedback is an incredible part of telling incredibly important part of telling our stories, and it helps us get deeper with what we want to share. So does that sound cool with everybody? And not everybody has to share, by the way, but I would love to. I would love for y'all to share. So tapping into the what you felt, the prompt for this one is, what were you feeling right before you decided to step up to the mic, and what finally made you take action? So where were you physically when you reached your limit of like, you know what, I'm just gonna hit record? Were you in sweatpants yelling at a podcast in your car? Like maybe you heard someone say something on a different podcast and you're like, hell no, I need to provide a different perspective because that's not it. Were you sitting at a boring meeting and you're like, wow, I should probably start a podcast about how to facilitate better meetings because this sucks, right? Did a conversation trigger it? Did a post trigger it? So I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes, which I know is not really a long time, but just start writing whatever comes to mind. I think we're back. Now, I'd love for us to share out loud. I know 2 minutes is not long enough by any means, but thinking about the specific moment in time and what your feelings were, or what led you to actually starting something. What were you doing in this moment, and what were your feelings?
I can share. I'm not sure that I responded to the prompt correctly, but I'll read what I wrote. Should I tell you where I am now? I have a podcast in mental health.
Yes, please introduce yourself, and if you
hi,
let us know what your podcast is.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Xochitl Alamillo, and my podcast is called The Chicana Therapist. And so this is what I wrote. I felt a sense of responsibility to share the knowledge I have around mental health. I saw people posting online as experts with no credentials and creating harm. And then I listed some people that I saw doing that. And for me, I'd been holding back for vergüenza or lack of audacity. And when I saw how confidently people were wrong, I said, ¿Cómo crees? That's as far as I got.
And by the way, this notion of I don't think I answered the prompt correctly is, agarra eso, tíralo a la basura, right? Whatever these prompts inspire you, whatever direction this inspires you to go, that's the direction that you should go in, right? It is later on that we start to tweak sort of the order in which you say it and which parts you go deeper into. So as you all listened to this, what were some questions that came up? In particular, I want to keep the lens on the feelings, right? That's what you felt. And what was going on around you when you decided to do this. Are there any questions or thoughts that came up from people that listened, or even just like, hey, I resonate with that? Anything that we'd like to share? And thank you, Xochitl, by the way, for sharing. Any reflections? For me, I was like, wait, who's on that list? Right? But I don't know if that's something you can openly share in the story. Right?
Well, for me, it was people like Mel Robbins, who's a lawyer and does a lot of self-help stuff. And then there was this big drama around Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, who was not actually a doctor apparently, and who like advertised herself as such, and just, just people like that. Those are the two that I wrote down, but there's a lot more just like social media people who think that speaking on mental health past their own lived experience is okay, and I don't think that it is.
Yeah. Dude, I was all over that Dr. Bryant thing. Like it kept coming up on my TikTok. So I'm up to date. I'm up to date on all the things.
Yeah.
Which is kind of really wild. One way that you could bring me to that moment in time is you experiencing that, right? Like you watching a video, or kind of like how you see TikTok videos and their commentary videos on what's happening. Your story can start with a moment in time where something you were like, wait, no, this is not the way that it should be talked about, or this is actually really crazy. This is wild. Why? Because when it's a hook, right? So people are going to be like, oh, okay, I want to hear more, because I actually thought Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was like pretty awesome. Let me hear what this perspective, what you have to say here. And then you start adding the layers of who you are and your existence and your essence to help people make sense of your perspective, right? So that's kind of the way that that I would suggest shaping it, is take me to that moment in time of you reacting to something like that. And then we'll go into some of the other things. Would anybody else like to share? We have like 15 minutes. It's okay if you don't want to share.
I can
Go for
share.
it.
So, okay, I'm gonna read what I wrote here. I lost you. Okay, I haven't started a podcast, but I am at the verge of starting one. I feel an impulse, a pulsation when I've heard friends or other people that I know, you should share this with people, or thanks for your advice, or seeing you do this made me feel like I should just start working on this project or that project. Every time I hear people say, I'm not creative, I used to draw or make music or write when I was younger. I just feel that you are there, you are in there. So it makes me excited, and at the same time feeling a little sad about it, because the truth is that everyone is made of this creative source and we just need to tap into it. But we all doubt, and even me. So I want to share my process and how I have tapped into creativity, how that feels, and how just take the steps to connect with your creative side and playful self feels.
I love that. And Paulette commented in the chat box, I'm not creative is why I started my show. Gosh, right? You're already tapping into the second prompt around what maybe a common narrative or a community feeling that we have, right? Some of the elements that I would add into your story, and they're more so just questions, right? Is what does it feel like to feel like you're not creative? And what do you actually need when you bring it to life? What are the things that what is creativity? When actually like is creativity me looking, I don't, my phone is right here, which is why I keep bringing it up, but is creativity me looking at this and thinking about how I could change it and make it my own? Is creativity actually the ability, is not always in the form of what some consider straight up art, right? So asking yourself this question, this central question of what is a question that I can help answer through this story? And gosh, I would love to tap into more of the creative piece. Steph, you may have some comments on this too, because I kind of think of like dance as one of those, like people say, no, I'm not good at dancing, right? But dancing really is whatever your body does when you hear music. That's what dancing is, right? So tapping into that feeling, that's a common narrative there, right? Things that I would add to this are, the structure talks about character development, right? You are the character in this moment. So what are you feeling? What is happening? What is around you in this particular moment when you have this realization of, wait, everybody's kind of creative, right? Okay, we'll move on for the sake of time. So some of you, or Xochitl and Angela, you sort of started tapping into some of this too. And something very interesting happens, and I'll tell you this happens very often, is when I prompt you to think about yourself, we almost have this default to start thinking about others first, right? So I'd like for you to try very hard to take the first prompt back home and really focus on you, right? What did you feel? Why did you need to deliver this podcast or create this podcast? So almost more community oriented, right? So everything that we do almost has a higher purpose sometimes, where it's like, well, I did this for other people. Yeah, but there is a part of you that did it for you as well, right? So in this one, it is about community. Think about your community. What were they feeling in their work or lives that made them desperately need a new perspective? And I tried to put perspective in quotes, but anyway, so this is sort of describe that moment, right? Describe, some of you started really tapping into it already, but I'd like you to tap into your senses for this one. What can I hear? What can I see? What do I feel? Is there something that I can touch in this particular moment where I hear other people telling me, like, hey, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, right? Like, oh my gosh, she's amazing, right? Like, what is it that people are feeling? Tapping into your senses allows us to bring these stories to life in a different way, as if we were there in the present moment versus looking back on it, right? So try to challenge yourself to think about what your community, what the common narrative often is. Kayla, you started talking about it as far as the creativity part of it, right? And us not feeling creative. Take me to a very specific moment in time by tapping into your senses. What can I feel? What can I see? What can I touch? What can I smell in this moment? And we'll do, I think, let's do a minute and a half. And if you'd like to, you don't have to spend time writing either. You can just share out loud if you feel like you want to share.
So can we go now or?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, and please correct me if I'm responding to this prompt the wrong way, but so what I'm thinking is if I need to describe the narrative of the people that I'm supposed to like be creating this podcast for, I think one thing is that they feel like they don't there is nothing inside or not like a source they can tap into either because they don't have. First of all, because you said, like you said it before, sometimes a lot of us, or not a lot of people, tap or refer to creativity as being creative artistically, and not as a general concept of you can be creative in different ways, right? So not having having a very like short definition of the concept, but also feeling like because I didn't go to art school, because I'm not putting together something that is very innovative and crazy and funky, then I'm not creative. So that's kind of like the common narrative, and they feel like I don't have anything to share. Like I mean, I'm not Picasso, I'm not this, I'm not that. There is always like a barrier to actually jump into creating something or making space just to connect with yourself. And to me is like, how do we create the space to connect with myself? Because everyone has a story and every story is unique, and that can be the source of your creative process, right? So yeah.
Yeah, right. Like we get stuck in the structure. Like that. Okay, I'm not going to take too much time. Jessica, I see your hand and I'd love for you to share.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for having this. So just a bit of background. I'm a leadership and career coach for women of color, helping them grow in their career without burning out and sacrificing their lives. So I started a podcast, The Ambitious Women of Color, and like actually the first prompt, I talked a little bit about me, but more of like the why did I actually do it, and or what was I feeling? What was like I was feeling that need to help my community in these situations where you're trying to grow in your career and feeling like you have to sacrifice everything in your life to get there. And that's kind of like the price that you pay to be committed, right? So even like going into the second prompt, is like I was already focusing on the first one on like what did they need or what were they feeling. So they're feeling like defeated, like, okay, if I want to go to the next level, if I want to grow in my career, I have to give up these things in my life. So that is just a lot of what we grew up seeing, our families showing love through self-sacrificing and just feeling like the need that is what I needed to do. So I wanted to bring conversations that are not really talked about, like why do you even feel that in the first place, and more about empowering people to put yourself first. And that's actually how you are, not only showing up better in your career, but also for the people that you love. Like you're able to give more when you are filling up your cup first, when you're giving from overflow instead of feeling like you have to self-sacrifice everything for career growth, and also to be like the best version of you for your people and everything around you. So I guess a lot of like why I even did podcasting is for that, just like how can I have these conversations that we don't talk about and helps women of color in this in like these situations to feel like heard and understood, and like giving themselves permission to like choose themselves first.
What an incredible mission, right? When we talk about these things, we talk about them, or when we try to tell stories, we often talk about them from the perspective of our current self, right? So what does that look like? That means like these themes come up, right? These common themes, and it is you telling these things or saying these ideas and thoughts out loud from the perspective of someone who's already learned the lesson, right? What I challenge you to do with storytelling is go back to, you said self-sacrificing, right? I'd like for you to take me to a moment in time. Tell me one specific story where maybe you might have been self-sacrificing, or where you witnessed someone self-sacrifice. That lands better oftentimes than telling people, hey, you don't have to self-sacrifice, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. But until you live it, right? I always like to say lessons are not things that you learn by one thing happening. There are multiple things that happened that led you to this conclusion about self-sacrificing. And not all of those stories need to make it on the stage. You get to pick and choose. Public speaking, storytelling is always about making a decision, right? All of your stories deserve to be on a stage. They shouldn't all be on the stage all at once, right? We can pick and choose and share different perspectives. And when we think about stories and sharing them, you all are probably familiar with metaphors, right? You can use metaphors as a way to tell a theme or something like that. I'd like for you to take on this concept of you being the metaphor for the way that people understand the final message and theme. Again, I want to challenge us to bring ourselves into the space. It is okay to shine the light on yourself and your particular lens and story in that moment, and not always have to do it, or at least not in the beginning, from the perspective of what everyone else is feeling, right? I've heard us, as we're talking out loud, go to, I want people to feel heard. But take me back to the moment when you didn't feel heard. Take me back to why that's important to you, Jessica, first, before it's important to everybody else. Why is it important to you? Then just out loud, just for the sake of time, I'd like for you to talk to me about the moment you hit record. Angela, I know you're just launching the podcast, but think about zooming into the exact time, location. Like, what were you doing? What were you actually doing? Was it raining outside? Just say this out loud or in the chat if you'd like, but give us the mess of that moment. I was sitting on a pillow and my booty was hurting. My foot was like getting cramped from how I was sitting. I think at the time the thing was like, create video podcast. And so I was like, okay, I guess I got to create a video podcast. My lighting was terrible. I was like all cramped. I had a green screen that my friends gave me, and I had no idea how to use it. So then when I had my video, I was like, well, I shouldn't even have had the green screen because I couldn't replace it. It was just a green background, right? I didn't know how to edit anything. Did you have an outline? What kind of mic did you have? Did everybody get the Blue Yeti? Right? Because that's the the one everybody tells you to get? Did you do your research on it? What was that like? Take me back to that mess of a moment. And if it wasn't a mess because you have a background in like producing podcasting, talk to me about that too. Was there hella background noise?
That's how I answered your first prompts. I don't know if we're reading them, but I could read it real quick. So I said, I
go for
felt
it.
knots in my stomach of both excitement and nervousness, but the curiosity of doing it for the plot twist overrode any underlying fear. I remember doing what I could with what I had at the time, a $16 wired lapel mic from Amazon and my voice notes app on my iPhone. I recorded the intro to my first episode of my show in my closet because of the favorable soundproofing. I edited it, said F it, and hit publish. I had no idea what would happen next, but it felt nice to do something just because I actually felt like it and not because I had to.
Ooh, that, right? Like I'm highlighting that. When you watch the recording, go back and all of these prompts, actually, something I'd like for you to do is highlight a sentence on there of everything that you wrote, 1 or 2 sentences that you believe you can click down on, that you believe you can dive deeper in, that you feel resonated with you. Yes, and there will be a transcript as well. Awesome. All the things. Okay, because we are at time and I want to make sure that I respect everybody's time. So, and I'll probably send Paulette a few additional resources that maybe you can send via email, or I'm not sure when you send that out, or just in the next newsletter. Keep an eye out. Maybe I just added myself to that. But anyway, if you have any questions, though, I can send over to you. I can answer your questions. So how do we get whatever it is that we just did, like that brainstorm dump, into an actual story on stage, whatever that stage looks like for you? Again, it can be a podcast, it can be a panel, it can be you as a keynote speaker, right? So combining what you felt, what they felt, and what happened. That's kind of how we get to a place of going back to, and I'll share the slides as well, but this structure, right? Everything that you just did now is a part of this structure here that you can copy and paste or plug and play there, right? Again, these are short stories, so my ask of you is that you actually go a little bit deeper and you ask yourself deeper questions and share it with someone. One of the most important parts of public speaking is actually sharing out loud and practicing it, because you never know, right? You all know this as podcasters. You never know what it's actually going to do out in the world unless you go out and do it out in the world. Don't add more for now, but do go deeper into single ideas from your short stories. So the part about, a lot of you mentioned in the comments, that part, I don't remember, it's hazy. Go deeper into that. Like, think about what that communicates to the larger concept of, I know I felt some self-doubt, but why don't I even remember that moment that supposedly is super pivotal, like where I was feeling all this anxiety about, right? Why don't I remember? Tap into that. The moments where Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, right? Tap into the feeling of that. So again, go and highlight some things and double click on them. Identify your type, because this gives you an angle. And when I say that, I mean your type of public speaking. In the next 30 days, do you want to do more do you want to develop this into a keynote? Do you want to develop the concept of this into a keynote? Do you want to be a part of a panel for podcasters and entrepreneurs? Do you want to lead a workshop on how to start a podcast, or maybe self-sacrificing, right? Like, what is there a workshop there? Is it, I want to be on more podcasts, right? And I'll send you to a guide that I created. It's which you can also find on my social media, but I'll send you the link as well. I'll send it to Paulette. And one thing that I'd like for you to challenge yourself to do is, once you've been able to dig a little bit deeper into some of these stories that you shared and the different angles that we approach them from, deliver one of these stories as your intro in your next podcast, or test it out via video, maybe via Instagram. Right? Try to share just a piece, a reflection of our time together, or one of the prompts that we had, and share it out loud, see what people say about it, how they resonate with it. And that will help guide how you continue to tell the story and what details matter most to you and to the people listening. Y con eso me despido. Muchas gracias. Sorry for going over some time. Let me see if I can. Cool. If I have a little bit more time, so if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, so I am very happy to connect with anybody one-on-one. I know, there's only so much we can do in 50 minutes. And so I'd like for us to, if you have any additional questions or any deep dives that you want to go into, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I always tell people, your questions, your thoughts, your ideas will always help me create content around it as well, create resources around it. So whatever question you ask me, I'm more than happy to create something for it if I haven't already. And there also is, I should have said this in the beginning, but if you would like to get your copy of the Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck, I have a code for free shipping for you all. It's Latina Forever. I kind of took Karolji's line, but you type that into the code on the site and you'll get free shipping in the US. I can't yet ship internationally. That's hella expensive. Well, thank you all so much. I hope that at least this got you to reflect some more and understand what things you want to go deeper into as you continue to tell this story of how you started your podcast and take me to that moment in time.
Thank you so much. This was a powerful opportunity to dig deeper in what feels like, we all went through it, or we are all going through it. So this shouldn't feel scary. And it didn't. And I think that's mainly because you made us feel like it's okay to excavate these feelings. So if anybody's watching on the replay, I hope that that comes through as well, and that you share it, because the entire point of creating these stories is to share them. So please, if wherever you share them, share that link to us in the Slack community so that we can also witness you, so that we can enjoy it, so we can reshare it. We can maybe let go of the fear of sharing ourselves, because once somebody else does it and we can see, hey, it's not that scary, the confidence starts to build for us to take that step as well.